The Selfish Podcast acknowledges the traditional owners of the land and waters that this podcast is recorded on.
Everything that we discuss on the Selfish Podcast with Chloe and Steph is for informational purposes only. It's either our own experiences, opinions and insights or our guest. It's not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied upon as health or personal. It's time to prioritise yourself and your well-being. Subscribe now and get ready to put yourself first with the Selfish Podcast. Hey, beautiful people. Welcome to this week's episode of the Selfish Podcast with Chloe and Steph. We are thrilled to have you back with us. It is Steph here. We've got Chloe as well.
Hey.
How has your day been, Chloe?
Day is feeling pretty great. Thank you. We've done an interview.
We have.
And we've done some planning.
Yes.
Very Capricorn season of us. And yeah, I'm feeling like, I think we spoke about this. Did we talk about the lightness of energy? Anyway, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we talk about that in the episode that we're about to release.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, in today's episode.
In today's episode. All over the place.
All over the place.
How are you today?
I'm good today, thank you.
Yes.
I've just, second week back at work, had a big launch this week, which has, been really well received. So I feel great, straight into 2024 and can already tick a big thing off my list.
I don't know how you do it.
And the weather is staying a little bit warm.
Blue skies.
Had a lot of catch-ups with family over the weekend.
Oh, yes.
So my family and Hugh's family and cousins and, it was great fun.
Actually, on Sunday I visited a new place down our way and it was really, really lovely. Well, great vibe, really good vibe. Home of plenty.
Winery?
Winery, yes. Yeah, great tapasy food and, wine, Aperols, so ticking all the lists.
Lovely.
Things.
I feel like I've just been constantly drinking the last few weeks.
Well, we did talk about going.
Whether we go a bit.
Okay, I tried yesterday. Adam walked in from the garden.
So Chloe and I were chatting yesterday about maybe having like a few weeks off of alcohol. And then what, how long did you last? So you had a drink last night?
Yep.
Well, you're still on holidays as well.
I had a ginger beer.
Ginger beers are great. Do they count?
Well, this one, yeah. I
feel like it's almost a health tonic.
I don't think this one is. Maybe some are.
So one thing, it's Christmas is over, so hot cross buns are already in the supermarket.
Oh, I love it.
And somewhere in my mind, my mind registers that hot cross buns are good for you, like almost like a health food.
Healthy.
I don't know why, but we did buy some, it's pretty much, we're so sacrilegious. We bought some on the 28th of Jan.
Yeah, I've already had
28th of December.
3 packets. Love them.
I love them.
They're so delicious. Do you toast them?
I do.
In the toaster?
In the toaster, but then I always end up burning almost down the house.
I don't mind.
Yeah, but then
I
also,
like a bit of charcoal.
I don't mind either, but then also I don't like it when little bits of the hot cross buns fall into the toaster and then almost start a fire.
Yeah, that's not
I've already done that twice. But I do, I will literally scour the supermarket for the ones that have been cooked that day, fresh that day.
Freshly baked.
And Hugh's like, why do you even do that? Because you then toast them anyway. But I just want them to be as fresh because the ones they actually put out on display, so the Coles near us has a live-in bakery. So they've got an on-site bakery.
Yes.
And so they have the ones on display as you walk in are always going to be at least a day or two old. So what you've got to do is you've got to go to the bakery section.
Oh, yes.
And then that's where they're hidden around the corner. I have to take you there. I've got a full tour. So
around the corner.
They're hidden just near not hidden, but they're right tight next to that bakery section.
Yeah, okay.
So you've almost got to go into a little nook where all the freshest products are.
Oh my gosh, you've got to show me.
So
I've got
a full on this isn't even, sorry, I didn't even think we were going to talk about this today.
No, we're going there.
I could have done a map for the show notes, but the psychology of where things are placed in supermarkets is fascinating. Mm-hmm. So you've got your basic items like your bread, your butter, your milk, and your eggs. Mm-hmm. And if you think about where and I'm probably missing something else, maybe your
fruit
protein.
and veg.
Yeah, fruit and veg. But if you look at where they're placed in a supermarket, they're often placed as far apart as possible. So you have to go in. So even if you're just going to get some eggs and some bread, you've actually got to cover at least 3/4 of the supermarket. So there's full psychology around, where things are placed, how they are placed, what levels
so you
they're
purchase
placed at.
more.
So you purchase more.
Another thing I just recently read about was that the freshest food is kept in the outer spaces of rather than going into the aisles, that's where all of like the preservatives and all of that kind of shitty food is going to be. Whereas the outskirts,
so shop on the outer.
Yeah, shop on the
rim.
outer.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want less preservatives and all of those things. I don't know. And it makes sense because you think about bread, fruit and veg,
meat.
You've got the meat, you've got the milk, like it's all on the outer. It's just when you start to weave in and out, you've got like the sauces and the, you know, I don't know, the muesli bars and the bloody chips and the
all that
chocolates
kind of stuff,
and the junky
all the
stuff.
things we want to buy.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I used to shop the meat cycle.
What does that mean?
That means that you shop when the meat's about to go off, so you can shop the specials. So I still do this. I love getting a special. So when I go into
do you shop the meat that's off?
No, it's not off. It's about to go off. So when you know the meat cycle, so like they get a delivery of meat like the third Wednesday of every month or whatever it is, or the first Wednesday or whatever it is, you work out the days.
Yeah.
And then you go in the night before, and that's when you can always get the cheapest products. So I've just got a little habit of, so Hugh and I, like, it's almost a game. Who can
save the most?
Can get the most things on special. So we have a rule in our house.
Yes.
That if we're buying chocolate or chocolate biscuits or ice creams,
yes,
they have to be on special. So you're not allowed to buy them if they're not on special. Which actually stops. So I know the biscuit cycle. So 1 week they have Tim Tams on special. The next week they have these like chocolate digestive biscuits on special. So like chocolate coated digestives.
Yeah.
And I can see you going, why are you eating digestives? Is that what you're saying? Because they're delicious actually.
Are they?
Yeah.
I'll have to try one.
But they're also almost a health food.
They're a health food. It's a trap, people.
It's a trap. No, so we shop the specials of like, so if we're going to buy food that's, you know, a sometimes food,
yes,
we have to, it has to be on special.
Yeah, I like that.
Unless it's an emergency.
Yes.
Unless it's an emergency, which might happen like once every few months. But we usually will always shop the special. And then Hugh goes, oh, sorry, couldn't get it. Wasn't on special. So there we go. But you'll find that, and magnums, like the mini magnums are often on special every 2 to 3 weeks. So you'll work out your cycles. But anyway, with the meat. So with the meat, you can shop the meat cycle. So it's still fresh.
Yes.
It's still within its use by day. And then you can chuck it in the freezer. And sometimes you can save like half price. You can get quite significant savings.
Okay.
Sometimes I shop the salad specials, but you've got to eat them in the next day.
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah. But one thing that Hugh loves to do is shop the cheese specials.
Okay.
So he goes to the cheese section. So not the normal cheese.
No.
Not like the, bigger cheese, but like the fancy cheese section.
Oh.
So like the cremo d'argental and your brie and your this and your that. And these specials that he gets, sometimes it might be $15 for a block of cheese, and he will get it for like $3 or $4.
What?
Yeah, yeah. Not even a block, like a little slither of cheese.
Yeah.
And then like literally we come home, we get our receipt. Sure. I always ask for that receipt because I want to look at the special, how much we've saved, and then it's almost like we share it like it's what.
I'm just not like this.
Then I'm like, Hugh, come over here. Look what I've done. And then I make him look at every single thing I've bought, and I'm like, how much do you think this cost? And then I just get real satisfaction. And then I'll go and spend a lot of money on something useless that I don't even need. So I've got like a duality to me. But it is, I get a lot of satisfaction from it.
I love that.
I'm so I'm excited.
You sound excited.
I want to go to the supermarket. I don't like doing click and collect.
I love
because I love to shop the specials.
Oh, nah, I hate the supermarket. I will click and collect every time. I've just got my save like bought before, and then I just click that same.
But that would be a good way to check the specials as well. So you could.
Know. Yeah, I could. I'd sometimes do.
Because I say to Hugh, if you see something that is a like. Non-perishable that's on special that we often buy, buy a few.
Yeah, and store it.
So he eats all brown for breakfast every morning. Not a fan, not my thing, not into it.
Yeah, okay.
But it was half price the other week. I said, how many did you buy? He said 1. I said, why did you buy 1?
You have it every day.
Have it every day. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. What else has been happening?
So having said that, I've not been to the supermarket for like a month, but this is, obviously so there's been a few very important things or, notable things that have happened this last week.
Okay, I have not been watching anything or doing anything apart from my landscaping. So
yes, and you've been at the beach a lot. You've been doing a lot of beautiful things.
Of course.
Nature-based.
Nature-based, very grounding.
Yeah. How is your gardening going? Or your land? It's not gardening.
Landscaping.
It's landscaping.
No, it's looking great. We've got the fence up at the back. We've done the front garden. We're onto the back garden beds. I'll probably plant out the back garden beds tomorrow, which is all like cacti and other various assortments of things. And then the lawn will go down in the deck.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
How are the nails with all the gardening? Or do you wear gloves?
I'm doing gloves. Yeah, I am trying to protect them. They're still a bit scrappy, but they're doing all right. They haven't broken.
They haven't?
No.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. Not happy with them. I don't know when I'm in next, but I always like a colour change.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, so what's been happening in the world around us?
Okay, well, there was the DRF big news the other day.
What the fuck does that stand for?
So the DRF is the Danish Royal Family.
Oh, right. Those
as you
people.
might have heard, Queen Marguerite of Denmark.
Yeah, I didn't hear.
She said, okay, I'm going to, what is it called when they give up the throne?
Denounce. No.
Yeah, or like I'm going to step back.
Yep, so she's stepping down.
She stepped down and it was the coronation of King Frederick and Queen Mary of Denmark. So they've ascended to the throne.
Wow.
So that was just the weekend just been.
Yes.
And, you
sent me some footage.
I sent you some footage. It was quite, to me it was quite emotional. I do question the validity and the need for royal families in this day and age. But you know what? I'm a bit of I like
traditionalist.
The royal family goss. I like the pomp and circumstance of it. Like the BRF, the British Royal Family.
Okay, right. RF Royal
I really
family.
got into that. I had about 5 different group chats I was in over the weekend discussing the Danish coronation.
Who are these people that you're talking to? Doesn't include me.
No,
because I don't have anything to add.
Yeah, because these are just group chats who are interested in like what Mary's wearing and what the kids. Of
course, you're interested in what she's wearing.
She's wearing a beautiful Danish designer, and it's just a friend texted me and said, "Oh, Steph, are you watching the coronation tonight?" So it was Sunday night that it was on, but it was very, very late. So then we were having a bit of a riff back and forward on the Monday and.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting because that whole family, so we think about Harry and Meghan and Charles and Camilla and the situation that went on there and how, all the drama between the heir and the spare.
So much drama.
And then, taking their titles away and blah, blah, blah. The Danish royal family, they're quite laid back.
Yes.
So criticism of the coronation was there were no tiaras. There were no tiaras. There were no crowns.
Oh, you wanted a crown?
I want a crown. I want to see a crown.
Fair enough.
So anyway, there were none of that because Frederick is quite laid back.
Yes.
And they wanted a laid back coronation, which, okay, sure thing.
Yeah, but put the crown on.
But the drama between Frederick and his younger brother Joachim is next level out of control.
Why?
Because it's the whole heir and the spare. It's the heir and the spare situation. So very similar. There's parallels with Harry and William and all of that kind of stuff. So Joachim's got 4 children. He's been married twice. His current wife, Marie,
she
who
wants
is
to be the queen.
French-born. She looks just like Queen Mary. Her and Mary are like spitting images of Marie and Mary. So take from that what you want. But back in 2022.
I want to look her up now.
Yeah, do. Only 2 years ago. Queen Marguerite at the time decided to strip the royal titles from Joachim's 4 children. That had an absolute uproar. Around the same time, Joachim was sent to France. His wife is French-born, but he was sent to do embassy work in France. So pretty much out of the kingdom.
Yes.
And there was so much press. His wife went to the press. His ex-wife went to the press. They're now living in the US, Echoes, lots of shades of
very similar.
Meghan and old mate Harry.
Yes.
And Joachim was a solo figure at the coronation. So yes, he was there, but he was riding solo. So he left the kids and the wife at home.
Why?
Well, I think it's a sign, a symbol, isn't it? To say, you know what, I'll be here because I need to, but you've turned your back on the family.
Is that her?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, she looks
just just like Mary. Just like Mary. I mean, you know, they're brothers. Maybe they've got really similar taste.
Yeah, okay.
So anyway, the Danish Royal Family, like, obviously I can't read Danish, so I have to get all of my information through third-party sources. And I wish I'd done a little bit more research before this episode. I could have done a full timeline for you, but this is just off the top of my head
that's
from
amazing.
what I recall from a few years ago. So anyway, that happened on the weekend.
Okay.
Adjacent to that, but really not at all related. Mm-hmm. Do the words Saltburn mean anything to you?
Nothing.
Okay. So
I'm really boring, aren't I? Like, I should know.
No, you're not boring. You're like grounded in reality.
Well, sometimes.
But Saltburn, okay, I think before next week's episode,
Saltburn?
you need to watch it. I'll watch it with you.
Oh, it's a show.
It's a movie.
Yeah, okay.
In Australia, you watch it on Prime.
On Prime. I've just got it up. Yeah.
It is an amazing movie.
Is it?
It is dark comedy. It is about, this what's that word?
Oh, Jesus.
What is that?
This is like
aristocrat?
Yes, aristocrat.
Aristocratic family, and they've got this amazing property called Saltburn, and it's sort of
that's an estate or something.
That's an estate, yeah, and it's called a very wet, horny movie.
Oh,
so I think you'd love it.
Yeah. After my Faerie smut, which I finished them.
Oh,
I finished the books last night.
Everyone. So how many books is that?
5. I don't think I've ever read so much from November to January.
Wow. We're January now, yeah.
Yeah. Finished. Loved it.
Oh,
I've got to pass them on now.
Awesome. Well, I'm still book 2.
Oh, book 2.
I haven't really read any of it yet.
No.
But I need to. I need to get back into it, but I sort of got off the smut train.
Yeah.
Not because I wanted to, more just because,
just life.
Just life got in the way.
But anyway, you need to get back onto it because the last one is amazing and very smutty.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I will watch this, Saltburn.
Yeah, Saltburn. I'm happy to do a rewatch because I just need to watch it again.
All right.
And I want to discuss it with you next week.
Great.
Because I think that is great. And then in terms of like the other thing I just wanted to touch on this week is I know last week we talked about intentions and
have you set yours?
I've not done that exercise yet.
Okay.
I've not done the exercise yet,
totally
but
fine.
I will do it for next week's episode.
Okay.
Okay, so I will definitely make sure that I've had to think about it.
Yes.
And got that ready.
Amazing.
One thing I did, though, just want to touch on is I know we were talking a lot last week about, what do we want for the year ahead and this year and all of that kind of stuff. But I also think it's a very, very important exercise for us to reflect on how far we came last year.
Yes, reflection is a wonderful piece of the whole puzzle. Mm-hmm.
Because I know, like just personally, so I've started seeing my psychologist again. I sort of just go through waves around when I see them and when I don't. And it was interesting. So I see her like once a month now and it's great. I actually really missed having that different type of conversation and all of that kind of stuff. And so I spoke to her just before Christmas and she said to me, so what's been going on? And I said, when did we last chat? And the last time we chatted was in May when all of these really big things were happening in my life.
Yes.
And a lot of the conversation was me like just, letting her know what had happened.
Yes, relaying.
And I said to Hugh afterwards, Hugh, like, we've been so, like, you're so caught up in just putting one foot in front of the other that sometimes you don't turn back and go, wow, look how far we've come. And we just had a really big chat about it and sort of, like, I'm so proud of him and what he's, worked moved through and, moved through and all of that kind of stuff. And I think sometimes we forget that and we just are too busy with our lives and too busy looking forward. So it's great to look forward.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But also sometimes I think it's nice just to take stock and say, okay, let's just think about where we were last year or where we were 6 months ago or, how far we've come or things we've worked through. It doesn't necessarily need to be a long distance. Like Hugh and I haven't come through, it's not long distance, but it's been a really steep hill or mountain that we've gone up and down.
I think that the reflection piece is important because it's that acknowledgement of the achievements and, the uphill battles that we all have to go along our journey, and, some are smaller, some are more steep, and, it's just that it's nice to look back and go like, we actually came through that and we are more aware, we're stronger, or whatever it is, whatever the learning was from it. Or, well, for me, I think that's the important piece, is like reflection allows you to acknowledge and learn and then move forward.
Yep. And I think about it with work, like, so we do performance reviews and we look back and we go, okay, these are the things I achieved last year. These are the things I did. This is, these are the lessons I've learned. But how often do we actually do that in our personal life in terms of, maybe putting some of that structure like we have in our workplace
back into our home life? Yeah. Beautiful piece of advice. I love that. Thank you for sharing.
I feel like we've covered a lot of ground.
We've covered a lot of ground.
I've got a bit of whiplash going from hot cross buns to bloody...
Oh, sorry, guys.
Anyway.
No, I'm sure everyone loved it. Just a little bit, I don't have too much to say with an astrological update, but just a few things. We've had Mercury moving back into Capricorn, and it sits there along with Mars, the Sun and Pluto, but Pluto is in its last week in Capricorn before it moves into Aquarius, and this is a 20-year cycle. So as a collective, we're going to feel this shift quite... Yeah, we might feel it quite dramatically for some, depending on where it's placed in your chart. But Pluto, enters Aquarius on the 20th of January, marking the final time the planet of secrets, power, technology, revolution and change will retrograde between Saturn-ruled zodiac signs. So for the last 15 years, Pluto has been in Capricorn, accelerating the rise of global institutions and empires. So we got a sneak peek or preview of what Pluto in Aquarius had in store between March and June of last year. But when Pluto enters Aquarius this time, it'll bring like huge advancements and transformation in healthcare, technology, AI, robots, global consciousness and systems of power. So big...
Buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up.
Buckle up, bitches. It's getting real.
Shit's getting real.
And we're actually going to go into astrology over the next few episodes.
We are.
Which we'll get into in a moment. But before we do, should we do a bit of a card pull?
Yes.
Do you want me to do that?
Yes, absolutely. I've pre-shuffled.
Oh, you've pre-shuffled? Okay. Okay. Take a break.
Oh.
A life's work, not a season. Get off the treadmill.
Okay.
Interesting.
I love that.
Okay, that's for all of us out there. Take a break. A life's work, not a season.
So is it called Take a Break?
It's called Take a Break.
Oh yeah, 82. Okay. Do you want to just read that?
Yep, sure. So... it's okay to take a break and enjoy your creations, to take a moment from your busy schedule, to get off the treadmill of life, to appreciate and acknowledge all that you've created, achieved, to appreciate and acknowledge. We're just chatting about this. All that you've created, achieved, released or experienced before rushing on to the next thing. To be in the moment and enjoy where you are. To take a breath and regather your mind, body and spirit. To recalibrate, appreciate and celebrate. To decide on what you really need to experience, really want to experience next. If you take a moment, you are not going to miss out. Perhaps you've just completed a big project, manifested something significant in your life, released an old way of being, or just been burning the candle at both ends. Now is the time to take some time out before rushing on to the next thing. You did it. Enjoy yourself and recalibrate. Go on vacation. Book a massage. We should all book a massage, actually. Take long walks in nature. Go away for a rejuvenating weekend to recharge and replenish. Well, I think there's a number of people out there taking a break, and maybe that's just reaffirming that.
I love that. And get a massage.
Get a massage.
Great.
Mind you, a lot of people are on holidays, but they're not necessarily taking a break, as we discussed last week.
Exactly.
So maybe we need to take a break from the holiday.
Yes. Well, Adam said to me the other day, he's like, I think I need a holiday from my holiday. I'm like, yeah.
Correct.
I get that. I get that. All right, well, I'm going to introduce our beautiful guest for this week, who is Amy Lea. She is a human design and astrology educator, a business mentor, and the founder of myconstellation.co. We are so thrilled to have Amy here today. She is talking us through all things related to our natal chart and astrology. So buckle up.
Yeah.
And can't wait to share this episode with you. Enjoy. We're so thrilled to have the wonderful Amy with us today to chat all things astrology and our year ahead, I guess. So welcome, Amy. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me. Really excited to chat.
Amazing. So we thought we'd first start off with just like you sharing a little bit about yourself and who you are and how you got into this wonderful world of astrology and human design too.
Yeah. So oh my goodness, it's quite a long story. I'll try to give it in the
We like long stories.
We like
long stories.
Whatever you've got, give it to us.
Well, so I'm an astrologer. I'm also a human design analyst, and I'm a coach and a business mentor. Really, the system that got me into this world was definitely astrology. So I always had an interest in astrology. As a child, as a teenager, I would secretly get readings, and 20 years ago, like you had to go to the markets, like in Australia anyway, it was like the little old women at the markets who you could get like psychic readings or astrology readings from. And I never in a million years would have thought this is what I would end up doing. And so it was always kind of like, I guess, a secret love for me. I started my career going into sort of business and then fashion and then human resources, like all pretty like serious, kind of areas. And in 2012, I had a bit of a health crisis, was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition and started to dive into energy. And really it was the work of Caroline Myss and Eckhart Tolle, like at that time, that was really quite impactful for me. But that got me interested in, all the kind of esoteric mind, body, health world. And then I did so much study in my career, and I was always so, I was just never like fully satisfied with what I was doing. And it just, I'm a projector in my human design. I went through many seasons of burnout and exhaustion, especially working in the fashion industry, which like the demands in that industry are kind of insane. And in 2017, I was like, I need to do something for fun because I feel so I'm just tired. I just really dislike what I'm doing. I need something to bring me back to life. And that thing was astrology. So I started studying properly in 2017. And then when I was finishing those studies, I found human design. It was all very synchronistic. And then I started offering, readings that incorporated both of those systems. And then business mentoring happened really naturally for me because my experience, particularly in like the few years before I went into human design and astrology, I was working really closely with CEOs and directors of companies, more in like HR and business administration. So like the business coaching happened quite naturally, because I always just had that interest. So I was always applying what I was learning with human design and astrology to like a business framework and context. So that's kind of the briefer version of it. But really it was like, I think this happens for a lot of people. It's kind of a health crisis that I think really changed my trajectory. I'm not sure if that hadn't happened. I don't know if I would be on this path because it kind of became a necessity, what felt like to survive. Like I need to find another way to work and live because I feel so, again, tired, unhealthy, run down all the time. What's going on? How do other people do this and like, function?
Oh, wow. I love that. I feel similarly, actually, like just thinking about my kind of like morphing into this kind of world too. And like, just that interest, that's like that, pit in the stomach and back when we were all growing up, it wasn't something that it was so out there. Like now it's kind of everywhere. It's like at our fingertips. But back then when we were growing up, it was just that I was like secretly reading the like star signs.
The horoscope.
And I had that birthday book. Did you ever have that birthday book where it goes and you look at your page and it has like different celebrities or whatever that are, but then you just read it and you're like, oh wow, that just really like resonates. So yeah, I feel like I had a similar start to life with that interest, I guess. Yeah.
And it's really, I think, social media, I think both human design and astrology, they seem to become more acceptable around 2017, 2018. I think social media played a really big part of that. It's like, oh, hang on, you can actually make a career of this. It's not something you need to do, little old woman doing readings in your house at the markets or something.
I love that you went to see a little old lady at the market and when you were younger. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you still think back to those moments? Like, were those moments pivotal for you,
Yeah, I feel like, I think to me it highlights just that I was always really quite open to these things. Like I wasn't, I just seem to believe in it, and I feel like that needs to be the way with these systems. Like you've kind of got to find them, have an experience of it of yourself, feel really, I feel seen, I feel identified in this in some way, and gather that evidence. And I had that from a young age with astrology. And I'm a Pisces moon, 12th house sun. So I'm pretty, just like my design is pretty intuitive, nebulous, a little bit floaty,
I love that.
So getting into that, you've just said a few words that I'm like, I'm not sure what that quite means. So could you just give us a bit of a, what is astrology, for the lay person out there? What does it mean, and what are some of the, I suppose, basic definitions around moons and suns and rising and whatnot?
Yeah, thank you. So astrology is really like the language of the stars, right? And the whole idea with astrology, and it's a similar idea with human design, is that at birth, the moment that you're born, you're imprinted with certain energetic qualities, and it's based on this concept of as above, so below. And so what we do is we take the planetary placements and alignment from the moment of a person's birth, and we can gauge certain life themes, energetic qualities, like get a bit of a map as to what makes someone who they are. And this concept, it's been reinforced again through kind of the teachings of human design. The man who founded human design, when he brought that through, he kind of channeled that system. What he said was there is a process that we all go through when we're born of light particles. They're called neutrino streams. Anyway, he was talking about you can't see it. They're these particles that they're invisible, but they have a certain amount of mass. And this is what actually imprints us in our forms. And it was actually then proven, like within the last 20, 30 years, neutrinos have actually been like named and proven like, no, that's actually a real phenomena. So it's these streams of light essentially that are imprinting you at the moment of your birth. But astrology is like thousands and thousands of years old, and astrology really began as what we call more like using omens and predictions. So for thousands of years, like astrologers who all had to be astronomers, back before technology, they had to actually manually track the stars and the planets in the sky. It was more used for like kings and queens, right? And they would track like, when we have an eclipse in this sign, we have flooding, or we have this. And they would, it was all kind of, it was like they gathered data over thousands of years and kept records. So the astrology that we have today, it's based on thousands of years and probably hundreds of thousands of astrologers taking notes and keeping data. And like, this is what happens when we have this combination. And so it's this beautiful, like collective system. You're like, no one person's responsible for it. People come in, they make it their own, they add to it. And it started to shift in about, I think it's like 400 AD. It started to shift more into horoscopic astrology, which is kind of the astrology we use now, which is more about the individual and the person. Whereas prior to that, it was like kings and queens, and it was like, this is what's going to happen to your civilization or like to your empire.
Yes, as a collective more so. And then we've kind of come into individuals. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And you think about it, there's so many stories that are told through the stars and so many cultures and civilizations, as you were saying. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. It's all just popping off in my head now going, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. And the Indigenous Australians, like there's records of them going back like 25,000 years of them actually using like the moon and the transits of the moon for agriculture and things like that. You know, I think they're the first. I actually have a book I was just given the other day that says the first astronomers, you know, and it's about the Indigenous Australians. So like, I think we've always looked at the stars, you know, and you can imagine before technology how magical it would have been or how ominous, like if there was an eclipse and all of a sudden like the sun, which a lot of cultures worshipped the sun as like a god, all of a sudden the sun's being eclipsed and then something really hectic kind of happens because that's what happens in eclipse seasons now, like if you pay attention to it, you'll start to notice it. Like this eclipse season we've just had, we had the whole Israel-Palestine conflict. There's always some kind of big thing that happens. So roots go back quite a long way, but it's evolved a lot.
Amazing. And I mean, I know that I'm a Cancer. So I always thought I only had one star sign. And then Chloe taught me about you actually have three. So you have your sun, which most people know about. So I'm a Cancer. What are you? Chloe, you're a Taurus. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we've got our astrology mugs actually.
Oh, I love that.
I'm actually using yours. I'm using your Taurus mug, Chloe, if you can see there.
I love that.
One of our beautiful listeners.
Yeah, actually, you
sent
would
these to
love
us.
these.
Yeah.
They're so nice.
Yeah, they're really beautiful and they're so lovely to touch. They're so lovely to touch. Yeah, so we've got the sun, which most people probably know what they are, but then there's also a moon and a rising. So can you break that down for us? What does that mean?
Well, I think maybe, Amy, do we talk about like the big three in that sense? And then maybe, I don't know, other ones that you think are pertinent that would be really like great for our listeners to kind of have a look at their chart, or even just talking about the chart too, because some people will be like, what is a natal chart?
Yeah. So I might describe, I guess, how it works, I guess, if you're looking at your chart, and then we'll talk about, the big three, they are the most important. So you're right, Steph, like getting to know like your sun, your moon, your rising, they're definitely the most important parts. But then we look at like your Mercury, your Venus, your Mars, your Jupiter, your Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and then we can go into asteroids, Chiron, you know, like there's actually,
there's so much to it.
But most people do just hear their star sign, which is your sun sign, because the sun is the star of our solar system, right? So your star sign is your sun sign, and it makes up about 70% of who you are. So it is the most important one to kind of get familiar with. But I think for anyone who doesn't resonate with their sun sign, remembering that, hang on, there's actually all these other parts to your chart that can kind of explain, you know, why, like I'm a Cancer too, Steph, but we still probably feel really differently because, you know, I'm a Pisces moon, you might have your moon
in
fire sign. Yeah. So like that automatically changes the way that our Cancer suns will express.
Yeah, I like that little bit about like the star sign because it's the brightest.
Yes, because I always get confused which one's which.
Yes.
And then like, so is Aries fire as well? Are they both fire signs?
Amy?
Yeah, so there's three of each element. So Leo, Aries, Saggy are the fire signs.
So I've got two fire and Cancer's water. So I've got water, fire, and then I'm a fire rabbit in Chinese astrology.
And so that can be important to look at, like if you have a dominance in any element, like if you have a dominance in the fire signs or the earth signs or the water signs, like even if your sun is in a fire sign, but you have a dominance in earth signs, like that will still feel really prominent, those qualities in you. And by dominance, I mean more planets in earth signs or more planets in fire signs.
Yes. Okay. And we refer to those as the elements. Is that right?
Yeah. So elements is like, a really big part of astrology. So there's the fire signs, the earth signs, the air signs, and the water signs. And then within each element, there are 3 signs, all of what we call a different modality. And so we have a cardinal modality, which is like gumption, initiation, get up and go. We have a fixed modality, which is Taurus, Leo, more stubborn, but really good with endurance and seeing things through. And then we have the mutable modalities, which is, your Pisces, your Sagittarius, who are really can be more changeable and fluid. Like I always refer to Saggy as like wildfire a little bit, can be a little bit more unpredictable, but a lot of wisdom in the mutable.
I see that about you.
Yeah.
But a lot of wisdom, yes.
Yeah, a lot of wisdom. Really good with completion, closing things, ending things.
Yes, that's really good for us in the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good balance. You always want a little bit of a balance of all the pieces.
Because what are your sun, moon and rising?
So I'm a Taurus sun, Gemini moon and Cancer rising. So they're all different. Yeah. All different elements, aren't they?
Yeah, so Cancer's cardinal, Taurus is fixed, and Gemini is mutable. So you've got mutable air, cardinal water, fixed earth too. And so when we're thinking of the modalities as well, fixed earth is going to be even more fixed than fixed air can be, like if you think of earth elements, so all the earth signs have those grounded, practical, pragmatic kind of qualities to them, whereas the air signs are more about communication, connection, intellect, ideas. But again, there's a bit more fluidity and movement with the air signs.
With the air signs.
Yeah, okay. And what about the water and fire signs? What are they about?
Yeah, so the water signs, so we have Cancer, Pisces and Scorpio. So the key kind of themes in the water signs is intuition, different types of service and caring, nurturing, if you think of water, it's like beautiful softness. Like if you think of the ocean, but there's also that incredible strength, right? And that like a tsunami or something can cause a lot of damage as well, but deeply connected to the emotional world and the intuitive world. And then the fire signs are so much about passion, desire, creativity, expression, boldness, like, and if you think of light, like what does light do? It's kind of illuminating different things in different ways.
Okay. And the fire signs are Sagittarius, Aries and
Leo.
Oh, Leo. Okay.
Yeah.
The lion.
Yeah, okay.
The one that people get confused with is Aquarius because it's an air. It's actually an air sign, but the symbology for Aquarius is the water bearer. So, but Aquarius is actually an air sign.
And where do those symbols come from? Like so Cancer's a crab and Leo's a
They all go back. Yeah, they all go back through like roots through like all the ancient mythology. So from Roman mythology, Greek mythology, and it's all just kind of evolved over time. It's the same with the planets, like all the planets, you can connect to different gods and goddesses of the mythology. So like Pluto connects to Hades, Lord of the Underworld. Mars connects to Ares, who was the warrior. Venus,
can I ask
Aphrodite.
A question about that? Is Isis connected to one?
No, not in those, because she was an Egyptian goddess. And I actually, so astrology does have roots in Egyptian, like that was like a significant, I guess, part of the creation and evolution of astrology. Yeah. But I don't know too much about the connection of those gods.
Okay.
But yeah, she's Why is that? Why are you interested in
I just
Isis?
had a reading with like an intuitive from the States, and Isis came through in that. And when she said it, like when we were kind of rounding it up and she said Isis, and my mind went to like the ISIS, like the terrorist. I was like, and I had to say to her, I was like, what do you mean Isis? Like, what's that? And she's like, oh, do you not know about the Egyptian goddess? And then I've looked her up, and interestingly, just before I had the reading, I'd been looking at a necklace that had her symbol. Like, I haven't bought it yet, but I will.
Wow.
And then when we were at retreat together, Amy, Anna and I were talking about it, and she just bought the Isis symbol. Like, it was just, all those things that kind of come through.
All the synchronicities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
she's calling you.
She's calling me. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Okay, back to so if we are putting our toes into the astrology world, what would you say is what should we look at first? If it's calling us and like we're feeling that call to kind of find out a bit more about ourselves, what would be the first, like our go-to?
Yeah, so definitely still sun sign, I think, you know, and getting maybe a few different interpretations of like what that could mean. Then your moon sign and your rising sign, like that's definitely the best place to start. And they really describe, it's the combination of how those three things work together. And so you can think of your moon sign like as like, if you're a house, your moon sign would be like the basement of the house, right? And it would be the deepest, most intimate part of who you are. Your moon sign has a lot to do with your emotional landscape, how you nurture others, but also how you require nurturing. And it's also your driving force. And so I think of the moon sign almost as like this inner motivation, right? It's like the engine of the house or the car that's pushing everything forward. Then you have your sun sign, which is like your ego, your core self. It's how you shine your light in the world. So, you know, your moon sign kind of fuels the expression of your sun sign. Then you have your rising sign, which is like the front door of the house. So it's kind of, you know, it can be described as like the mask you put on, you know, the way you meet the world around yourself. It's very descriptive usually of how you assert yourself and how you, you know, interact with others. It's usually how other people perceive you, like first impressions. But there's a branch of astrology called esoteric astrology, and in that they actually put all the emphasis on your rising sign and say it's more important than your sun sign, and it's very descriptive of the role you're here to fill in the world. So I think all three are important, and then considering in context, like, okay, so if this is my moon sign, how is that kind of fueling then that expression of my sun sign? And then how am I meeting the world when I'm going out to be the expression of my sun sign? What are people maybe seeing in me? Your rising sign can also be things people project onto you as well, you know, so like maybe people project leadership qualities onto you, or maybe they project like intensity or something onto you because that's kind of what they see first without necessarily getting all the deeper layers of who you are.
This makes so much sense to me because I have always, I've only known about the one sign, about the Cancer sign, and I never really like fully, like I do resonate with parts of it, but there were a lot of parts I don't resonate. And quickly having a look at the Aries and Saggy, I'm like, okay, I can now, like as you're explaining that, I can, I probably am more seen as an Aries than a Cancer.
Yes.
People wouldn't say, wow, you're so emotional and this and that. But they might go, you're more of this, you know, fire sign. Yeah.
Well, you're a go-getter. You often go first with things. You are all about leadership, which is
it's very interesting. So so before we go further, where can, if people don't know what these, you know, their natal chart, where can they go to find that out, Amy?
Yeah, there's a few. You can get it for free online. Okay. You just need to know your birth details. So the date, the time, and the location of your birth. Sometimes the time can be tricky for people. If you don't know your birth time, trying to get it down to a window if possible. And just so maybe if, you know, mum or dad says, oh, you were born sometime in between like 9 and 12, or, you know, just check the chart a few times in that window and just see if things change. And you can always ring hospitals too if people don't know the time, or you can actually work. There are certain astrologers who do birth chart rectification where they will actually work with you to almost work backwards and narrow. And they can usually narrow your birth time down to like a few minutes. It's actually quite incredible.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because I know, like, I don't know if my mum knows her birth time, for example. Like I think that like every few months I text mum and go, Mum, what time was I born again? And she's like, oh, Steph, what are you doing now?
So, write it down.
I do. I know it's 12:01 a.m. I know that now. I've got it down pat. But okay, well that's good to know for people, and we can put a link in the show notes if people just want to get their natal chart up now as we're speaking, so they have got a little bit more understanding of the three big ones.
Yeah, a great one is astro charts. If they just Google astro charts, they're a great visually, aesthetically nice looking one. Some of them are really ugly, by the way.
Yes. I get put off by that.
It
needs to be visually appealing and pleasing to the eye. There's some that I've seen, Amy, actually, I think you use it, and it's quite like boldish kind of text. And it can be colourful in nice colours.
Yeah.
You probably have one.
I'm working on one. So I have a website that does human design charts, and we're working on an astro version, which will hopefully people think that's aesthetically pleasing. But yeah, no, astro charts I think is the most. Some of them are like really bright colors, or they're like blues and yellows.
Yeah, and red. Maybe that's to go with the fire, the water, maybe.
Yeah.
No, knowing you, yours will be very pleasing to the eye. Are there any other standouts? Like, we can go deeper. There's the houses. Is that too deep if we were just dipping our toes in, or, there's such a layered approach, isn't there?
There is. And I think learning about the zodiac signs and the houses in tandem makes a lot of sense, because there's resonance and overlap. So when you start to learn about like Aries, if you learn about the first house at the same time, like they're not the same, but Aries traditionally rules the first house, so I would suggest diving into all of those at the same time, but you really don't need to. Looking for dominances, like I said, that can be really helpful. So if you have a lot of planets in one sign or one house, you could just spend time exploring like and you can just Google, like, what does this house mean? What does this sign mean?
Yeah, I've done that plenty of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't do that at this. I'm still dipping my toe in. I'm still trying to learn about my big three.
So if we just quickly, Amy, if we did have a number of planets in a house, I got that right, what would that essentially like mean?
It just indicates it's a real area of focus for you in this life. It's like there's a lot of energy for you to express in that. There's a lot of energy that you have that wants to express that zodiac sign, the quality, and then there's a lot of energy that wants to explore that area of life. So especially if there's three or more planets. In a house.
And is that basically just where the planets were at your time of birth?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the way we calculate it is your rising sign is literally based on the point that was on the horizon at the moment that you born. So that's why it's connected to that first glimpse of who you are, because it's the first glimpse of the horizon. And then that actually determines where everything else is in the chart.
So I've just got Steph's up, Amy. Can I give you a little look? Because she's got 4 in 1.
Oh, yeah, in the third house. So the third house is all about communication, your message, education, very much about like your local area as well, local area, local community. It's also the house of the goddess, and more like feminine forms of spirituality. So even like paganism and things like that really belong in that part of the chart. Because there's another part of the chart that's to do with more solar spirituality, which would be like Christianity and things that have put the masculine, the sun, at the forefront. Yeah. Yeah, so we would see themes around message, communication, education, thought leadership, being really important. And then that all works with, because you're an Aries rising. Was it Aries rising? Yeah. So
you know my signs. I still just have to think. I'm like, maybe.
Yeah. So still the way you'll assert yourself with all of that will still be in that Aries way. Okay. Right. Like that flavors everything about you. It's actually quite harmonious when you're an Aries rising, because everything matches up. All the signs match up with the house they traditionally rule, right? So this means you're a Gemini third house. And so Gemini being curious, intellectual,
good communicator.
Yeah, wit can be very witty, can be kind of trickster-ish as well,
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Okay. I'm glad we've had it. Yeah.
Okay. Great. And so for those who have never seen the chart before, just to explain it, because again, I just feel like I've seen these things before, but I've never really, I've always had a bit of an interest, but it's just, I find it confusing, right? So I just get a little bit, I back away because I'm like, oh, too much. So it's basically like a circular, it's a circle. It's a circle, and it's divided into 12 different sort of segments, and then there's different things plotted in different areas. So those 12 things are each houses Is that correct?
Houses, there'll be a zodiac sign on each house too, which could be different. So like so if you're a Gemini, third house, I am a Libra, third house. Chloe would be, what was your rising sign again?
Cancer.
Cancer. You'll be a Virgo, third house. So that's where we get, again, these different, that's what makes us all different. And then there are planets. And if you imagine when you look at your birth chart, the Earth is essentially in the center of that. So it's basically where the planets were, with the Earth in the center. Everything at the top of the chart was above the sky when you were born. So in daylight, everything in the bottom of the chart was below the Earth.
I was going to ask about that, because when I did a course a while ago, it was talking about a day or a night chart. Yeah. So what's the difference between that, or how do we work that out again?
So that's part of, teachings that we call sect. And so essentially, if you know where your ascendant-descendant line is, so that's the AS and the DS, which will always be somewhere in the 1st and 7th houses.
Yes.
If the sun in your birth chart, if the sun is above that axis somewhere, you're a day chart. If the sun is below that axis somewhere, you're a night chart. And literally what that means is the sun was below the Earth, or from, along the ecliptic when you were born. And so for people who have day charts,
so I'm a day chart. I can see you're a night chart.
A night chart, okay.
So that's another reason why you might not resonate with your sun sign, because people who have night charts, it's actually the moon. The moon's the more significant luminary in their chart, and the moon is a really, really descriptive of, again, the role, where you're here to shine your light. So getting familiar with that sign and that house if you're a night chart.
Amazing. I love that.
Yeah. So I've always had a question, like, okay, so I think, don't quote me on the stat because it will be incorrect, but I think around like 33% of people these days are born by a C-section. And one of the things I thought, so my son, both of my boys were C-section, and I thought, well, how does that impact would that impact their chart in some way? But I suppose when you were talking about it's those like unseeable light particles, I suppose it doesn't impact.
Come out.
Yeah, and because I was a C-section baby. So I guess it's all that it's still all in divine timing. So even if you are a C-section, it still is all happening when it was meant to.
When it was meant to.
And then it is that imprinting that happens as you're born.
No, that makes sense, because I was sort of thinking before, how does that work? Okay.
And I've always thought too around that, when the doctor, you might have your date that the child is meant to be born, but then your section might be brought forward or whatever. But again, it's just meant that's
divine timing.
Meant to be. Yeah, I love that. Was there anything else you, or Amy, I should ask you, that you would add in before we jump into 2024? I feel like that's a nice little summary.
Yeah, don't overwhelm people. So if you're new, just to take a step at a time, and just focus on the big three. I do usually recommend, it is good to get a reading from someone if you are really wanting to explore it, because having someone who can be like, oh, this is how it all works together, and explain all, because when you're doing it yourself, you're often piecing all these different pieces together.
I've found that, as I've been exploring it, I agree with you in that the piecing, but what, I've had a reading with you, Amy, and I feel like you just overlap it all so beautifully and make it all seamlessly kind of work together so that you can understand it with more ease. I find that is just, if you are thinking about dipping your toes into it, I would totally agree to get a reading done.
Get a reading, And I suppose, but before we go into the 2024, I mean, how do you use astrology, or how should we, as we're listening to what's in store for us, how do you recommend that we take those insights and take them forward? Our lives?
I think take everything with a grain of salt. I think your lived experience is the most important thing. I tend to work very loosely with transits, you know, like, and Chloe knows this probably, I can't remember exactly the reading that we had together, or what I would have said.
I can't remember either, but it was great.
Yeah.
You loved it.
But I'm really big believer in strategy and authority, which is a concept from human design. And so, you know, if we're living as ourselves and we're making decisions correctly, you'll align with what you're meant to anyway. But when it comes to looking at the astrological transits, like, it can be really nice to just almost like prepare for, like, okay, like, I can put some energy here. There's going to be maybe more flow here or more ease here, or there might be a bit of crunch in this way. I find it really helps me in, I guess, navigating like what's going on collectively, you know, like this is the stuff we're moving through. Okay, I can see it. I can see that shadow that's coming up that's really needing to be cleared. And also just for self-awareness too. You know, I think with astrology, well, this is what they teach in human design, and I believe it applies to astrology as well, is that, you know, these systems, there's something that happens to us when we start to get that self-awareness, right? And it activates like a change within us. In human design, they talk about like on a cellular level. And so just having something affirmed to you, like, well, this is why I've always felt really different, you know, or this is why this is really important to me. It's not important to other people, or this is why that doesn't matter at all to me. You know, like, having those things affirmed to me is often the most helpful piece in that self-accepting and self-understanding journey, you know, because we're all so different.
Totally.
Yeah.
I so resonate with that. I think that when I had that reading with you, Amy, I walked away feeling like really seen. And I guess Amy's readings are so special in that she overlaps the astrology and the human design, so that I, you know, love both of those systems and ways of being. And I think that when I started to understand that, I just felt like a bit more like at peace or at home in myself. You know, it was just like a bit of like a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
You know, just like, oh, okay.
You're like, oh, that makes sense now.
This makes sense that I might feel like that. Or, you know, I didn't really understand my Gemini moon that much. And yet I always, like, I'm quite heady, like, and think a lot and can overthink. And, you know, then being explained the Gemini aspect of that as well. Like, you know, it's like, oh, okay. So grounding practices are really important and, you know, nourishing to my nervous system when I do that, you know. So it's just like all, like, it was like a puzzle. It's like a puzzle connecting together, but it's, I'm still obviously still learning and piecing it all together.
Yeah. I love it, because I've always been a fan of the moon, and I've actually got on my nails right now, I've actually got the phases of the moon and then my full moons on my thumbs.
See, that makes sense as a Cancer.
Yeah.
Like having that affinity into the moon.
Because I've always had a real strong connection to the moon and understood, okay, it's full moon, that means this, it's new moon, that means this. And I think, you know, in the pod we start off every episode, well, we don't start it off, but, you know, in the episode we talk about the astrology and Chloe sort of says, oh, this is what's happening. And I find that has been really useful. And if I'm feeling certain ways or feeling stuck or feeling what, it's really interesting. Like, because I think sometimes we think, oh, as humans on this earth, like, oh, none of that stuff could impact us. Like, I think some of us get quite intellectual about, you know, well, it's just me and it's just how I'm feeling and it's just the interactions I'm having. But it's actually, no, there's so many cosmic things at play that influence all of this stuff that's going on in our energy and everything else.
And we knew that like thousands, even hundreds of years ago. We knew that and we've kind of forgotten it, but we think we're so advanced.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. We're almost
like, you know, coming back. We're coming back and like allowing the energy around us to help guide us forward. It's like coming home to that understanding and knowledge.
So, Amy, final question. We are the Selfish Podcast, and a lot of what we talk about is, you know, how can we take care of self and how can we put ourselves first? So what do you do to take care of you?
I'm really good at taking care of me. Now, I almost think I have to watch myself going into like too much.
Never.
Never. I'm not lucky, but, you know, I don't have children. I'm single. So I just have to kind of look after myself and my dog and my business at the moment. So it's a little bit easier for me not having to manage all those other things. But for me, it's space. Like spaciousness and time, and having time for like the sort of somatic body work things that I like to do. Like they're usually my biggest priority. So I do network spinal analysis, and I just love to get body work done. And
what's your go-to body work?
I love kahuna massage.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, and I have a practitioner here. It's so good. It's like being held
good.
by the feminine. It's so beautiful. But I also just have a body worker up here who blends all sorts of things. Okay. And they're usually quite intense, hard. Like I love a good like hard massage, deep. Like really getting in there. Yeah. And I've actually also started getting buccal massage.
I was just going to say that, your buccal. Yeah.
Oh, and you know, I went at the last one I had, she was like, what's happened? She's not, because you get all this. And it had only been a month since I went last. She's in your mouth and she massages, and it's literally like fibroids through there. And so in a month,
just feel them.
Yeah, I was like, look, there's been a lot and I haven't been expressing it, and you hold it all in your jaw as a woman, and then you come out and it's all gone. It's actually incredible.
So you go to your facialist for that, don't you?
She does it. Yeah.
But Nat. I see Nat. And when I come up next time, I'm going to see Nat. But my craniosacral therapist does it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be important for manifestors, you know, because there's probably that maybe not expressing
this
what
region.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I was sitting there last night reading my book, but I was also just like massaging my jaw, and I was like, oh yeah, I need to get in there. Yes. Yeah. But it's crazy, isn't it, Ashley?
And you can feel it, the hard bits that sort of form.
Yes.
In the skin.
When they're in there.
Touch mine? Can you feel them?
Well, you need to go up.
You need to go up.
They go
you
in
can't
there
feel them
and
that
they
way.
like pinch it, and then you can actually, when they're up there, that tightness, Amy, you know, and it's like, it feels like it's just going to ping, but then it just like slowly, like the fascia or whatever it is, like just starts to release.
Softens. Yeah. And so it's not super comfortable too. If you've been holding a lot of tension, it can kind of hurt. But then by the end, it's like that good, like,
Does she do one side at a time for you too?
Yeah.
You feel like one side.
And then I'm like drooling because it's like.
And then you're like, you've just got to do the other side to like even me out. I love that. Oh, no, we love hearing, you know, from our guests how they put themselves first and you know, essentially be selfish, but selfish in a good way, because
selfish gets a bad rap.
It
the
does.
Word, but
But we it's so important to fill up our own cup and do things that make us feel good. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for asking.
Well, that has definitely got me thinking. Well, it hasn't got me thinking. It's got me joining dots, because obviously we talk about astrology every week.
Yes.
And you've, like, I knew the moon stuff, but not really anything else. And you've really opened my eyes to a lot of different things.
Well, yeah. But it's nice just to have Amy explain it
but then exactly. So then when Amy's talking about it, I'm like, really interesting.
It's landing.
Yeah, it's landing. It's landing. And next week we're going to go into, we've got Amy again. We've split her into a two-parter, and we're going to talk about what's in store for 2024.
Yes, and the big transits coming through.
Yeah.
So,
So if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. That is, you know, one of the things Chloe and I want to do this year is really look at how we can grow the podcast, and the best way is word of mouth. So I really appreciate you just, you know,
sharing the love,
or sharing a Facebook post or Insta post.
Yeah, Insta post.
We need to do more on Facebook.
We do.
Yeah. Share an Insta post or whatnot, and just thank you all for listening.
Thanks for being here.
We appreciate you. So go out there and be selfish.
Bye.